Now, if you're saying, well, I like Jesus' law, but where do you get the Old Testament? How does that work? The equation is super simple. It goes like this. Jesus has 2 commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, all your strength. The second is like it, that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. And people say, great, so love God and love people. A lot of churches have it on their billboard. They have it on their website. Love God, love people. But what you have to be careful about is saying, okay, so love God, love people, and I get to decide and define and describe what is love towards God and what is love towards people. And I've determined that, for the next 3 years, loving my neighbor means wearing a mask and getting 1,400 jabs, every other week. And so that's where we got, because the reason we got off track and we were able just hook, line, and sinker to chomp down on that silly bait, is because we're antinomian, because we weren't well versed in the law of God. We knew, okay, love God, love people. All right, so Jesus starts with 2 commandments, but that gets us to the 10 commandments. How do I love God? Does God have something to say does God define love for him? Oh, well, he does. The first table of the Decalogue. How do I love people? The second table of the Decalogue. Well, one of those commandments, right? Honor your father and mother, do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal. That's the 8th commandment. Number 9, do not bear false witness. Number 10, do not covet. Okay. Well, go back for a second. So that's how I love my neighbor. But then here's the question. How do I not, what does it mean not to murder my neighbor? Right? What does it mean to honor my father and mother? What does it mean not to steal? Well, that's where all the case laws come in. So you start with Jesus' 2 commandments. Those 2 commandments, if you ask, well, how do I love the Lord my God? And how do I love my neighbor as myself? That gets you to the 10 commandments. So the 2 commandments, the greatest and the second, which is like it, gets you to the 10 commandments. The first 4 tell me how to love the Lord my God. The next 6 tell me how to love my neighbor as myself. But then there are also corresponding questions that come from those. That's what we would call general equity theonomy. You're taking a case law and you're extrapolating out of it the general goodness, the general principle, and then applying it in your time and your culture today. But what I want the listener to understand is that particular case law, that is one application, one extrapolation of the 6th commandment, which is thou shalt not murder. And that, the 6th commandment, is one of 6, the second table of the Decalogue, 6 different particular commandments of the second greatest commandment that Jesus gives us, to love our neighbor as ourselves. Now, all that being said, that's just don't murder my neighbor. So what do you do if there's a virus and you've been told that the virus is contagious and that the virus can kill people and blah, blah, blah? It does play into the 6th commandment, thou shalt not murder, that there is a certain obligation for us to say, okay, well, I don't want to be negligent. I don't want to go around and spread this, disease. I don't want to be responsible for killing grandma, if that actually is true, which I think a lot of that was exaggerated, but yeah, I want to be careful. But here's the deal. This is the goodness of the law of God. The law of God is not love your neighbor by not murdering him, period, end of story. Well, I have 6 commandments of what it means to love my neighbor. And the 9th commandment, which is another one equally as important, is not murdering my neighbor, is not lying to my neighbor. Thou shalt not bear false witness. So I'm not allowed to kill out of negligence my neighbor. I'm also not allowed for 3 years to lie to my neighbor and scare him half to death, making him think that the bubonic plague is at large and that he should hide in his basement and quit his job, lose his business, lose his livelihood, vax his kids with a foreign substance that we have no long-term testing with whatsoever. See, the law of God is good. It's good. It really would have helped us these last 3 years. It really, really, really would have helped us.